My parents skipped my wedding just because I got married before my perfect sister. Now they want back in my life, but I'm not sure I can forgive them. My parents chose to miss my wedding, all because I got married before my sister, who they see as perfect. Now, the flawless family image they've worked so hard to build is finally falling apart. My husband and I, both 32, got married 8 months ago. My parents and my 30-year-old sister, Molin, were the only ones who didn't attend. My parents' decision was surprising, but my sister's absence was less of a shock since we've never been close. Still, looking back on our history, I should have seen it coming. Let me explain my family's dynamics. I can't entirely fault my parents for always favoring my sister. She has always been incredibly talented at everything. She was the center of attention in any room she entered, winning every spelling bee, science fair, and talent show in elementary school. In high school, she was the class president, valedictorian, and prom queen. She was tall, slender, and beautiful, and she even did some modeling in college before she focused on her business degree. I'll never forget when she got her first modeling job during her sophomore year. To celebrate, my parents threw a huge party for all our relatives and her friends. Her first professional headshot was framed and now hangs in our living room, right above the fireplace. That same year, I earned my computer science degree. My parents just gave a casual well done and went back to planning Molin's next photo shoot. After graduating, she immediately started a job at a prestigious company and quickly rose through the ranks. At 30, she's already a senior executive with a corner office and a corporate car. Meanwhile, I'm a mid-level software developer at a respectable tech company. While I enjoy my job, it's not the kind of career my parents brag about to the family. I'm also shorter and coveier than my sister. Growing up, my mother would make rude comments about my body, enroll me in workout classes I didn't want to attend, and put me on endless diets. She would say things like, "Molin never has to worry about her weight," or, "You could look as good as your sister if you just put in a little more effort." These comments had a lasting effect on me, even though I learned to ignore them by the time I was in high school. Over the years, I learned to accept the differences in how we were treated. I finally came to terms with the fact that my parents would never be as proud of my achievements as they were of Molin's. What was I supposed to do? For years, I tried to earn their approval by taking the classes they suggested, joining the clubs they encouraged, and even attempting to model for a brief period. A total failure that my sister still brings up. But nothing was ever enough. I was just the second daughter, and they were completely captivated by my sister's success. Sometime in my mid-20s, I stopped trying to impress them. I focused on building my own life, growing in my career on my own terms, and making connections with people who valued me for who I am. To be honest, things got better after that. Knowing that my parents were always so concerned with appearances, I kept my interactions with them casual to avoid conflict. During our mandatory holiday gatherings, I would just nod and smile as they gushed about Molin's latest job, boyfriend, or vacation. Since they had Molin to talk about, they didn't seem to notice how distant I was emotionally. Then, at a tech conference, I met my husband through a mutual friend. He truly saw me for who I was, unlike my family. He loved my dry sense of humor, my coding skills, and yes, even my body. From the start, he never once suggested I change or compared me to anyone else. After 4 years of dating, he proposed to me at home while we were eating takeout and watching our favorite show. It was perfect. Of course, I told my parents I was engaged last year. Their reaction was the first red flag. There was no excitement, just silence. My mother then asked if I was sure I wanted to rush into marriage and suggested that I might want to get in shape before the wedding. My father barely said a word. At our engagement party, my husband pointed out their strange behavior, which I was too nervous to fully process at the time. They spent most of the night huddled in a corner, staring at my mother's phone. My husband later told me he overheard them talking on the phone with Molin, who was clearly upset. He heard them say things like, "This wasn't the plan," and "We never expected Rebecca to get married first." There were a few minor issues during the wedding planning process. My mother had already made several wedding Pinterest boards for Molin, even though she wasn't engaged, and she wasn't interested in helping me choose a dress or a venue. When I chose my dress, a simple but stunning A-line gown that made me feel beautiful, my mother simply said it was practical and suitable for my body type. My future mother-in-law, who treated me like the daughter she never had, ended up helping me with most of the planning. My husband and I meticulously went over the guest list to make sure no one was missed before sending out both digital and physical wedding invitations. I'm certain my parents got theirs because the digital invitations included red receipts. After they didn't RSVP, I called, texted, and emailed them multiple times. My messages were either ignored or met with vague replies about them being busy and needing to check their schedules. I was too busy with wedding preparations to spend too much energy on it. My in-laws were a huge help, assisting with everything from seating charts to floral arrangements. My own family's obvious absence was never brought up, even at the lovely bridal shower hosted by my husband's sister. Even though my parents weren't there, The wedding day was beautiful. We had a relaxed afternoon celebration in a garden setting after a morning ceremony. Everyone said we looked so happy and in love. But there were moments when their absence felt like a physical ache, like seeing the empty seats in the front row, or missing out on a father-daughter dance. After the honeymoon, I wanted answers. When I finally got them on the phone, they said they were deeply hurt that they never received a formal invitation. My mother went on a long rant about how careless I was, how she had always wanted to help plan her daughter's wedding, and how she couldn't understand why I would leave them out of such a major event. I was confused, as I was sure we had sent them both types of invitations. During the call, I looked through our records and confirmed we had indeed sent them. The delivery of the physical invitations was even confirmed. I didn't confront them about their attempt to gaslight me. I just apologized for the mistake and hung up. Later, my husband brought up several incidents that showed their true motives, like how they seemed surprised, not happy, when we told them we were engaged, or how they kept making excuses to avoid helping with the wedding planning. He hadn't mentioned these things earlier because he didn't want to stress me out during the wedding planning. But looking back, the pattern was clear. They couldn't stand the idea that I, the less successful daughter, was getting married before their beloved Molin. Their behavior just confirmed what I had always suspected. I would never be able to measure up to my sister in their eyes. The most painful part was realizing that even my wedding day, which should have been a celebration of love and new beginnings, became just another part of their never-ending effort to keep up their perfect family image with Molin at the center. According to family members I spoke with in family group chats that I no longer participate in, Molin recently got engaged to her boyfriend of a year. My parents are openly excited about planning an extravagant wedding for her. They're already bragging about securing exclusive venues and designer dresses, and my mother is taking Molin to private fittings at high-end stores. All the mother-daughter time I never had. Interestingly, many of our relatives are suddenly declining invitations to Molin's wedding and engagement party. My parents' actions at my wedding have apparently become a topic of discussion within the family. When my relatives ask why my parents didn't attend my wedding, I simply tell them the truth. They couldn't handle the fact that I got married before their favorite daughter. I state the facts as I see them, without adding any extra details or trying to get sympathy. A few days ago, my parents contacted me and accused me of deliberately trying to sabotage Molin's wedding. They claim that the relatives they've spoken to are making excuses to avoid attending any of her wedding events. My cousin, to whom my sister vented, told her that people are reluctant to come because they've heard about how my parents treated me. My parents claim that I'm spreading lies because I'm jealous of my sister's upcoming lavish wedding. The thing is, I'm just telling people the truth about what happened. Maybe they should look at their own actions instead of blaming me for the consequences. As things continue to change, I find it harder and harder to pretend I have a relationship with my parents. Their behavior during my wedding finally showed me that I would never be enough for them, no matter what I did. Their absence at my wedding isn't the hardest part anymore. It's realizing that I never had the loving, supportive parents I always wanted. For now, I'm focused on building a life with someone who truly loves me for who I am. First update, a lot has happened since my last post 2 weeks ago. I finally decided to talk to my parents face-to-face about their behavior at my wedding and their recent accusations that I ruined my sister's big day. After reading your encouraging comments, I felt it was time to be completely honest. When my parents started texting me about their tarnished family reputation, they quickly began blaming me, saying I was jealous of Molin and had planned the whole thing. I did something I've never done before. I agreed with them, but not in the way they expected. Instead of defending myself, I said, "You're right. I am jealous. But I'm not jealous of Molin's career, her accomplishments, or her appearance. I'm jealous of the unwavering love and support you've shown her, which you never even tried to show me." There was a silence on the line. Then my mother started claiming that I was overreacting and that they had always treated us equally. In that moment, something inside me broke. Feelings I had held back for years came pouring out. I told them about every birthday where Molin's most recent achievement overshadowed my own. I told them about how my mother canceled my high school graduation dinner because Molin had a modeling callback. I talked about how her prom dress cost more than all my college textbooks for a year. I kept going, despite my father's attempts to stop me by saying I was exaggerating. I told them how painful it was to watch them spend years planning my sister's imaginary wedding while showing no interest in my own. I told them how much it hurt to see their empty seats and how my mother-in-law had to help me with everything, from wedding planning to finding my dress. Their response was revealing. Instead of accepting any of my points, they turned it around on me. "Why did you never speak up if you felt this way?" my mother insisted, as if I hadn't tried to talk to them for years. My father said I was being unfair and spiteful by discussing these feelings with our relatives. Then, my mother said something that finally made everything clear. "We always knew you were insecure about her success, but we never imagined you would go to such lengths as to try to ruin Molin's wedding out of spite. This isn't how we raised you." I realized they couldn't even hear me. They didn't think their behavior or my feelings had anything to do with the whole situation. It was all about Mullen's reaction. Even during a conversation about their absence from my wedding, they were more concerned about her upcoming nuptials than the pain they had caused me. I didn't try to make things better. For the first time in my life, I didn't take back what I said or apologize. Instead, I spoke my mind directly. "You're right about one thing," I said. "You did raise me. You taught me that I would never be good enough, that Mullen's accomplishments would always matter more than mine, and that keeping up your perfect family image was more important than my feelings. But you also taught me something you didn't mean to, that I deserve better than this." There was a long silence before my father spoke. He said in a cold, calm voice, "Maybe it's time for us to stop acting like we're bad parents since you've already decided that we are, and you clearly enjoy seeing us suffer. We thought that since you're family, you would help fix this, but it's clear you've made your own choices." My mother delivered the final blow. "Perhaps you just couldn't handle not being the center of attention, even though we always try to treat you both fairly, Rebecca. That's not our fault. You chose to play the victim." I didn't argue. What would be the point? They had just confirmed everything I had been saying. They couldn't admit their role in any of it, even in this last conversation. I just hung up and said goodbye. To my surprise, I felt a sense of relief after the call. There were tears, but they weren't the desperate, heartbroken tears I remembered from my younger years. They were tears of freedom. For the first time, I had said everything I needed to say without holding back or feeling guilty about my feelings. Later that night, my husband saw me watching the sunset from our back porch. He sat next to me and held my hand without saying anything. "They're never going to change, are they?" I asked him after a while. "No," he said, squeezing my hand, "but you have. And that's what matters."
He's right.
I've changed. The young woman who desperately tried to win her parents' approval is gone. The woman who came out of that last conversation no longer needs their validation. While it's painful to accept that my parents will never be the people I need them to be, it's not as painful as holding on to hope that they would change. For the first time, I don't really care what happens with my sister's wedding or the family drama. I've said my piece, and now they have to deal with the consequences. The strangest part? I feel as if a weight I've carried my whole life has finally been lifted. It's not the happy ending I had hoped for with my parents, but maybe it was the one I needed. The freedom to stop chasing a love that should have been there all along. Second update. In the 3 days since my confrontation with my parents, things have taken a surprising turn. Mullen decided to get involved in the drama, but her plan backfired in a big way. Yesterday morning, my sister sent me a carefully worded message. Her condescending tone, which she's developed over the years, was obvious in her text. "What you said to your parents was completely inappropriate. They've supported us at every stage of our lives and given us everything. You can't just blame them for being bad parents because you're insecure about the choices you've made in your own life." She continued with her typical mix of moral superiority and passive-aggressive insults. "I know your wedding wasn't what you imagined, but that doesn't mean you should try to ruin mine. There's nothing wrong with wanting a celebration that honors those of us who have worked hard to meet certain standards, Rebecca. Not everything has to be a competition." I didn't bother to reply. I've learned that engaging with her only gives her more ammunition. After years of dealing with her manipulative behavior, I just blocked her number instead. Mullen has never been good at being ignored, so I knew that wouldn't be the end of it. A few hours later, my husband called me at work, laughing so hard he could barely speak. Apparently, Mullen couldn't reach me directly, so she found his personal number, probably through a mutual friend, and sent him a series of texts outlining exactly why our sisterly relationship has always been so strained. She started her first message to him professionally enough. "As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being, I feel a need to reach out." But it quickly turned into her real motivations. She told my husband that, as the new man in Rebecca's life, he had a duty to help me behave in a more appropriate way. The messages became more and more patronizing. "Family dynamics are complicated," she told my husband, a professional software architect with an MBA, adding that someone with Rebecca's sensitivity might not understand the bigger picture. She advised him to help me see reason before I irreparably damage family relationships. But the real punchline was her attempt to appeal to what she thought were his social climbing instincts. "I'm sure you understand that maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial for your future," she wrote. "Rebecca's behavior is only hurting her own prospects and, by extension, yours." Having always been able to see through Mullen's act, my husband found her manipulation attempt hilarious. He particularly enjoyed her assumption that her corporate title or the promise of networking opportunities would impress him. In his words, "She really doesn't know me at all, does she?" We went over the messages together when I got home that night. Instead of feeling offended or upset, I was laughing with my husband. Seeing Mullen's sneaky tactics exposed, especially when they were aimed at someone who was completely immune to them, was freeing. I learned something important about my sister from this interaction. Despite all her accomplishments and success, she is still that insecure teenager who needs to put others down to feel superior. It's clear how little she understands about healthy relationships that she thought she could control me by manipulating my husband when her direct approach failed. She used to do the exact same thing in high school when she couldn't bully me directly. She would try to turn my friends against me. Different decade, same tactics. With this new perspective, I now see how Mullen's actions were more than just simple sibling rivalry throughout our childhood. She made a constant effort to maintain her status as the favorite child, always telling our parents and me how much better she was. She had to overshadow anything I accomplished and point out my flaws to everyone I became friends with. My response to her games is different now. 10 years ago, her messages would have made me question myself. 5 years ago, I would have been upset and hurt. Today, I'm simply tired of the drama and find her transparent manipulation funny. My husband's response was perfect. Instead of getting drawn into her drama, he simply replied, "Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being." As her husband, I'm focused on supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. I think it's best if you address any future concerns to Rebecca directly. Have a nice day. Mullen sent one last message after not getting the response she wanted. I see she's poisoned you against the family, too. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces. Ironically, Mullen's attempt to help has only strengthened my resolve to stay away from my family's destructive behavior. As her messages to my husband show, nothing has changed. She is still the same cunning person who feels the need to control every story and sees any deviation from her perfect family script as a threat. Perhaps the most pleasant part of the entire situation is knowing that her attempts at manipulation were so completely unsuccessful. Instead of driving us apart, she succeeded in bringing my husband and me closer together. We joked about her texts and planned a weekend trip, completely unbothered by her threats of social consequences. I've come to understand that true family isn't about maintaining facades or controlling stories. It's about standing together, laughing together, and supporting each other when someone tries to manipulate you, even your own sister. I am more certain than ever that I'd be better off staying out of Mullen's wedding drama instead of getting pulled into my family's endless power struggles. My husband and I have decided to focus on building our own happiness. People say success is the best revenge, but I'm realizing that real success isn't about impressing people. It's about being happy with your own choices and surrounding yourself with people who encourage, not hinder, your personal growth. By that measure, I feel more successful than ever. Third update. Since my sister's failed attempt to manipulate my husband 2 weeks ago, things have taken an unexpected turn. The situation is getting worse, despite my parents' desperate attempts to save their reputation. I found out through family contacts that my parents have been on a mission to control the narrative. They have been calling each relative individually, accusing me of spreading malicious lies because I'm jealous of Mullen's perfect wedding. They claim that I'm just bitter because her wedding will be far more sophisticated and beautiful than mine was. Their newest story is that I deliberately left them out of my wedding so I could play the victim. It's funny because they still live in the same house they've had for 30 years and have had the same email addresses since the internet was invented, but they're now saying I sent their invitation to an old email address and an old physical address. The good news is that their damage control is failing miserably. Our family members don't believe it. In fact, several family members have shared their own stories about my parents' history of favoritism. One aunt said my mother had done similar things at other family weddings to make sure Mullen was the center of attention. The most satisfying part has been my extended family's reaction to my parents' manipulation. Key family members, some of whom were supposed to have important roles in the event, have withdrawn their support for Mullen's wedding. They may no longer have access to the exclusive venue they were able to get through family connections. A family friend's high-end dress business has even had sudden scheduling conflicts. Things reached a boiling point at a family gathering last weekend. Apparently, when a relative innocently asked about my wedding photos, my mother became furious. She started a defensive rant about how I had changed since getting married and was trying to destroy the family out of jealousy. Her outburst backfired, shocking several relatives who were unaware of the situation and further damaging their carefully maintained reputation. It's especially ironic that my parents' frantic attempts to keep up their perfect family facade are the very reason it's falling apart. Every time they try to justify their absence from my wedding, they end up revealing more about who they really are. The more they try to paint me as the bad guy, the more people see through their deception. Family members are now taking sides after remaining neutral for a long time. My father's brother, who had always stayed quiet to keep the peace, recently apologized for not speaking up sooner about how they treated me. He and his family have now decided not to attend any of Mullen's wedding events. I haven't had to explicitly address any of this. The truth is taking care of everything for me. When Mullen and my parents try to twist the story, they always end up revealing more of their toxic behavior. It turns out that all those years of staying silent and tolerating their treatment to maintain peace was just enabling their actions. My husband put it best. They spent years building a facade of the perfect family, but it was built on emotional manipulation and favoritism. Eventually, it was bound to crumble. Personally, I'm doing better than ever. I no longer have to worry about trying to win my parents' approval. The pressure of managing Mullen's emotions is gone. For the first time in my life, I'm not concerned with maintaining their perfect family image. Sometimes, the best revenge is just letting the truth speak for itself rather than taking any action. I'm grateful to everyone on Reddit for giving me the courage to stand up for myself. You have no idea how much your support and advice have meant to me on this journey. Sometimes you need to see what true family support looks like from strangers you met online. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking, real-life stories happening around you.